What's going on, world? DS1 Ross, represent the New Black Alliance. Good morning. Shout out to y'all family. Peace to everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. And I'm back with my third freedom fighter that our youth should get to know about and understand. Great black brother, as y'all can see in the title, Larry Hoover. Larry Hoover, y'all. You know, a few years ago, his name started circling around again in the rap game. You know, due to the outrage of the Rick Ross situation. You know, he did a song, you know, basically shouting out Larry Hoover's name and, you know, a lot of people who was affiliated with his organization. And as y'all could see, the brother organized the nation. You know, a lot of them brothers was from different states, you know, stepping up to the plate, you know, basically questioning the brother Rick Ross, you know, asking him who gives him merit to use the king's name. And see, that's what we got to understand, family. When we building a nation, it must be protected, you know, and it must be protected even in the media, because too many times the media paints a picture of us or paints a picture of what we established. So, you know, those brothers stepped up and I feel like they did the right thing. You know, that brother had to answer some questions. So I'm gonna get into my dissertation. I'm gonna give y'all some background information on the brother, you know, some of his childhood life, you know, so y'all can understand where the brother was coming from. Because see, a lot of times when black people become freedom fighters, we don't understand why they fought for freedom. We don't understand where they came from. We don't understand what they've dealt with. Because anybody who's fighting for freedom comes from oppression. So we must understand all of our freedom fighters and where their oppression started. Where did it come from? What was it about? And this is the purpose that I'm doing this series, family. I'm doing this series because I want us to understand why we need to continue to fight for freedom. Fighting for freedom, revolution, is always a reoccurring thing. It's not something of the past and it's not something of the future. It's something of the eternal now. So let me get into the brother and his early life. Give me 1 second. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to y'all, family. Peace, Latanya. Thanks for tuning in, sis. Let me get into a little bit of his childhood. It says, Larry Hoover, also known as King Larry, was born on November 30th, 1950 in Jackson, Mississippi. His parents moved the family north to Chicago, Illinois when Hoover was 4 years old. By the age of 13, he was on the streets with a group called the Supreme Gangsters. engaging in petty crimes such as theft and mugging. His criminal activity soon evolved to shootings and assaults. Now, family, I'm gonna just let y'all know something. When I'm reading these information about these people, just understand that a lot of this information, is written from a biased standpoint. We have to understand that. So, one thing that I wanted to point out so far, the brother came from Jackson, Mississippi. If y'all know any history about Jackson, Mississippi, it's very poor out there, extremely poor. And Mississippi is very, very racist. To this day, people still out there dealing with open racism. Open. You could walk in a restaurant and be called a nigger. Jackson, Mississippi, look it up, family. Black people are living in poverty out there, heavily. And it's extremely violent because of that. So this brother, you know, as we could see, he came from poverty. He came from poverty. He came from oppression, from young, just growing up in Jackson, Mississippi, and then moving to Chicago, you know, in the 50s. So, back in the 50s, Chicago was heavily, heavily segregated, y'all, and heavily racist, because you had a bunch of, Italians and Sicilians and all those types of white people out there. And they hate niggas too. So as you could see, the brother had to click up with certain other groups of individuals who was dealing with this oppression. See, they don't really give you that background information. But it's up to us, family, to use our minds and to understand and to put things together. We must begin to apply what we know about certain things and just put it together. And as you could see, like they said, by the age of 13, he was on the streets with a group called the Supreme Gangsters. Let me continue to read. Hoover ascended to a leadership role as the Supreme Gangsters grew. He later joined forces with a rival gang kingpin, David Barksdale, to form the Black Gangster Disciple Nation. So these brothers, along with the other group of brothers who was down with them, they decided to form a nation. And isn't that what we all talk about, family? Nation building? Isn't that what we all supposedly is in this for? Nation building? These brothers built a nation, and they started building a nation on a grassroots level, from the streets, from us being together and sharing the same oppression. Keep that in mind, family. We'll continue to read. And a lot of this stuff I'm going to sift through, family, because a lot of it is bullshit and they just trying to make the brother look like a killer and a murderer. They don't want to focus on, the important things. Like what I just talked about and him linking up with other Black brothers to start a nation. By his early 20s, Hoover had been in and out of prison several times and had endured at least 6 separate shooting attempts on his life. However, he was unable to escape the reach of the law. He and another gangster disciple, Andrew Howard, were charged with murdering dealer William Young on February 26, 1973. The two men were sentenced to 150 to 200 years in prison. with Hoover sent to maximum security Stateville Correctional Center in Crest Hill, Illinois. So, as y'all can see, family, in his early 20s is when he went to prison. And like I talked about in my last video, y'all could go check that out. When I did my dissertation on Mutulu Shakur, that brother was put on the COINTELPRO list at the age of 16 because what he was doing in the community and what he was doing for the community. So this article that I'm reading from, family, which is from biography.com, which is from the Bio channel, which we know, it's bias and prejudice because it's by white supremacists. But based off what they're saying here, it's obvious that this brother was on the COINTELPRO list from young. Him and that whole nation was under the watch, full eye of the feds. Several shooting attempts on his life. How do we all know that that came from gang-related activities, or what they like to call gang-related activities? You see, we got to start thinking for ourselves, family, and stop letting the rhetoric of media control the way we see our leaders. Because this brother was a real leader and he was a nation builder. So I'm going to continue to read. It says, but Hoover's power seemed only to grow inside Stateville. He began protecting other inmates, who in turn became devotees and new recruits for the gangster disciples. His control over other prisoners were recognized by the warden's office, which began looking to Hoover as a positive influence to quell riots and uprisings within the prison system. So as y'all could see, family, the brother started a reform in prison. That's what he did. He started to rally all the quote unquote gangsters that was in prison with him, and he started to reform them, reform their way of thinking, reform their way of acting. So the prison, what they did was they tried to make him, a overseer, basically. They tried to make him a token nigga. Oh, he could stop things in our prison. So we'll give him trinkets because he's helping us. But they didn't understand what the brother really was doing, because the brother was a mastermind. Mastermind, that's when they give you all these hundreds of years, because you're a threat to white supremacy. So I'm gonna continue to read. So as we see, before I continue to read, as we see, the brother started a reform. And through that reform, he changed the name from the Black Gangster Disciple Nation to what we know as today as Growth and Development, the GDs, not Gangster Disciples, Growth and Development. So here's a little information on the Growth and Development program. Hoover was inspired by the biography of Mayor Richard J. Daley and began discouraging violence amongst his followers. Instead, he made education mandatory for members of the GDs and instructed his army to go to school, learn trades, and develop talents and skills so that we become stronger in society. Changing the GD of Gangster Disciple to Growth and Development, Hoover's move to reform began gaining positive attention from the outside. Growth and development created nonprofit organizations that registered voters, a music label that helped needy children, a series of peaceful protests to fight the closing of public programs, and even a clothing line. So what we could see, family, is that through reform, the brother really started building his nation within the nation. And this is what we all talk about here in the conscious community, family. But see, this brother understood that unification is a war tactic. See, we can't go to war or protect what we have developed if we don't unify. And we must unify under an ideology, not under a religion, not under a sexual preference, not even a form of spirituality, but an ideology, a socio-political ideology. And that's what growth and development was. That's what growth and development represented. Growth and development was the ideology for that nation. And as we can see, we got brothers out here to this day that's still pushing the envelope of growth and development. And a lot of them are in music. A lot of them are social activists. They got clothing lines. Look at the brothers out in Detroit. BMF, Black Mafia family. They were GDs. They were GDs. They took that organization down. Why? Because those brothers followed the blueprint of Larry Hoover, growth and development. Without BMF, you have no Young Jeezy. Without BMF, you don't have a T.I. You see? This is why Rick Ross named the song BMF, because he understands the connection between BMF and the GDs and growth and development. You know, we must understand that, family. This brother started building a nation within a nation. Everything that we wanted to do, this brother has done. You see? So this is why our children must understand brothers like him. Because this brother wasn't a gangster. He was a revolutionary. He was a freedom fighter. He was fighting for the freedom of his people. And it first started with the people in his community. And develop the people so we can become model citizens in society. So we can build infrastructures and build institutions for our people to thrive. So of course, once they saw the brother making reform, what they started to do, what COINTELPRO does the best, is they make up a bunch of shit and get people to co-sign it. So what they started to do to the brother was they started to say that the brother was running drugs and continuing his gang activity through the prisons. And they used the fact that a lot of the GDs weren't following protocol and was acting out. And they used that as a way to say, oh, look, he's just telling them in the streets to keep doing what they're doing, but he's pretending in here like he's a good guy. This is what the feds was saying. And they said these things about the brother because the brother became powerful. He was powerful. It says the Gangster Disciples grown to more than 15,000 members in at least 5 states. So we talking about 3,000 people in 5 different states that was under this ideology to create change for their people. See, when you start doing things like that, family, you're a threat. You become a terrorist to these people. You see? So what they had to do was they had to find a way to make this guy not look credible to the media, to still paint a picture of him being an enemy or being a bad guy, basically. Peace to everybody in the chat. Peace, Megalodon. Peace, Zeus Flippy. Thanks for tuning in, family. So what we got to understand is that when you become a freedom fighter, you are automatically on the COINTELPRO list. And see, now what they're doing is they're calling us terrorists. So what we got to understand is that either you going to stand for something or you going to fall for anything. A lot of our people out here are dying for nothing. A lot of our people out here got 70 years in prison for nothing. This brother is a political prisoner, just like Mutulu Shakur. These are political prisoners, family. Nobody likes to speak about the good things that this brother has done and the effect he has made in these places. They said he had 15,000 members in 5 different states. So one of the states, I could name a few. Let's just look at the rappers. You got Atlanta. That's where you got Young Jeezy and T.I. You got Detroit. That's where you get BMF and Trick and those brothers. 300. That's dope. That's growth and development, family. New York. Growth and development, family. So we got to understand that this brother made a positive impact. He used his power and redirected it to positivity. And as you can see, the brothers always had good intent behind what they done. All those brothers did was operate out of the resources that they had around them. Like I said, the brother came from Jackson, Mississippi, very poor. They are living extremely poor. See, nobody like to talk about those real down south states like Mississippi. Could walk in Popeyes or Church's Chicken and be called a nigger at any time. Where white folks still hanging nooses on their trees, man. And then the brother moved at 4 years old. He moved to racist ass Chicago, where the Italian mafia and all that was running out there. So this brother was faced with overcoming oppression a certain way. So the brother may started out doing crime, but if you grow up poor, how you supposed to feed yourself? And see, one thing about a man, is that he gonna protect and provide any way that he can. You see, back in the 50s, those brothers ain't had no choice like we have now. We got job agencies. We could go and sweep up a street for a few dollars in a day. Them brothers didn't have that. It wasn't no work programs. That's why those brothers protested for those types of programs. So brothers could get off the street. Them brothers ain't never want to rob people. They just wanted to take care of their family and be happy, just like everybody else. But they were faced with extreme oppression and they made do. And what they did was they organized. And this is the problem that we have today, family. What ideology are we organizing around? See, the ideology that the freedom fighters organized around was, look, we all black, we all poor, and to the system, we ain't nothing but niggas. So what we gonna do for us? See, that's the ideology that they gathered around. You see? And that's why they made effective change in their communities. To this day, Growth and Development is one of the biggest street organizations, one of the biggest, because of the ideology. Because with the Growth and Development ideology, people are going to start rebuilding their communities. Just the name alone, you can't represent that name if that's not what you about. If that's not what you gonna put work in for. Everybody like talking about putting in work. What you putting in work for? Huh? See, a lot of people that I hear that's speaking about revolution and organizing, they organizing around a check. They organizing around money. That's their ideology. Money. But forgetting about the brother who ain't even got a bar of soap to wash his ass. You see? We must organize around an ideology that's going to make people act when they see and hear it. And that's what the brother did. He turned gangster disciples and transmuted it into what he felt being a gangster was. And he felt being a gangster was redeveloping the consciousness of his people and then sending them out to do things in their community. Now, how many people do we have like that today, family? That's recontextualizing things. See, that's true intelligence. When you can recontextualize something that somebody deemed negative. Yeah, I'm a gangster, but you know why I'm a gangster? Because I love my people. See, that's what the brother showed. You know why I'm a gangster? Because I'm going to take all the gangsters off the corner and give them jobs. That's why I'm a gangster. That's what I'm discipling for. You see? And in order to be a disciple, you got to have discipline. So that shows that the brother had order. You see? And that's what also scared the white supremacists. That this brother was militant. And everybody who operated under him were militant. So it was hard to infiltrate. It was hard to infiltrate his organization with agents. It was very hard. This is why they had to trump up charges on him and just throw shit on him. See, they use that "I'm white and I say so" rule with this brother because they couldn't really find nothing to really put on a brother. You see? And this is why our children must understand people like this, man. Because this brother fought so that people today that we idolize can understand why they doing what they doing. You see? A lot of us don't know that the brother Big Meech and his brother came from the tutelage of big homies who looked up to this brother. This brother. Everybody loved BMF because of the money and the cars and the, the showmanship, the celebrity. These brothers had clothing lines. They had a record label. Listen to what they established, family. They was cool with the mayor in Miami. Listen to what these brothers did. Same thing Larry Hoover did. You see? And Larry Hoover coined the term of calling black men kings. King Hoover, King Larry. See? If you were GD, you were king. Growth and development. You were king. You see how we all like to say, "What's up, king? Peace, king." See, we got to understand where, you know, where these things come from, family, and who coined these terms and made them hot and made it social. You see? And this is what we got to understand. Brothers like Larry Hoover is special to us. And the brother's still alive. After they trumped up a bunch of drug charges on the brother, they gave him 6 life terms in prison. 6 life terms. You know why they do stuff like that to our political people? So the youth will grow up and never thought of this person. You see the youth growing up right now, they not even fathoming a brother like Larry Hoover, but they run around singing Young Jeezy. When the brothers who bought you Young Jeezy followed the ideology of Larry Hoover. When T.I. followed the ideology of Larry Hoover, growth and development. That brother got construction businesses in Atlanta, building homes, redeveloping, buying back the block. All that came from Larry Hoover. Growth and development, family. You see? And see that all the brother Rick Ross was doing in the song was paying homage, letting people know I'm about that growth and development. But you know, it's about order. And the brother didn't follow order. And that's why, you know, he had to be chastised. Because that's how it works. You see? Rick Ross is a commercial rapper. Put the king's name out in the media like that. Who sanctions you to say the king's name in this white supremacist media? You need permission to do that. You need coaching. We don't just say the king's name. You see? You never heard Big Meech ever mention Larry Hoover. You never heard T.I. ever mention the GDs. But there's a lot of big homie GDs in Atlanta. You see? Young Jeezy is one of them. You see? That's where the black flags come from. Larry Hoover, militants. That's what it's about, family. Organization. unifying, unification. Unification is the number one war strategy, family. You must understand that. White supremacy wouldn't work if you just had American white supremacists. White supremacy is global because they are white supremacists around the world. You see? And they unified to control the world. See, those 1% that everybody like to talk about or name, those are people who just unified under the ideology of white supremacy. So why can't we unify under our own ideology like this brother did and build things instead of unifying around money? And then when somebody don't get their money, somebody get killed or somebody start snitching. See, we gotta watch what we gotta watch what we saying we need to be following. We need to watch what we idolizing, family. You see? What ideology are we standing behind? If it's black love, then black love need to be the ideology. And out of that ideology, things should be getting built. But obviously, the black love ideology isn't enough because it's not a lot of black love. That's why shit is not being built in the name of black love. You see? But things were being built out of growth and development. You know why? Because those are action words. Love is an action word too. But love has to be cultivated again, family. That's what we must understand. And through growth, love can be cultivated. See, we got to grow out of the mindset that we were already put in. And we have to develop one another on all levels. On all levels. But it must first start with a mindset. And the mindset should be growth and development. Because as long as the participants are running with that ideology, people are going to wake up every day and get something done. You see? Even if it's just us on here edifying one another through our words, this is development. Teaching is developing our children. You see? But we're not teaching our own children. So the system is developing them to what they want them to become in their system, because in their system is backed by an ideology. So we don't have a system because we don't have an ideology to stand upon. You see? If we had an ideology to stand upon, then things will be being built. And that's why you see churches run a lot of our communities. Churches, because they're organized. That's why they're organized. And they're organized under an ideology. And no matter what it is, they're getting things done because of that ideology. But everybody like to knock certain things. But I see religious institutions doing things in the community. The Nation of Islam is very active on political and social things in our community. So should we bang on the Nation of Islam when they're doing things? No, I don't agree with your God and your aspect of that. But socially and politically, I totally agree with them because those brothers are getting things done in the community for Black people. The brother Tony Muhammad is out in California. New Black Republic West. I'm not sure if that's the name, but that's an organization that this brother created to help Black people with financial literacy. You see, they're reforming, they're developing. You see, because they have an ideology. And you know what their ideology is at the Nation of Islam? Do for self. Do for self. See, we in the conscious community don't have no ideology. We follow everybody else's. One minute you a commission, the next minute you a more, the next minute you this, the next minute you that. We have not unified under an ideology. And this is why you have chaos. You see? This is why you have chaos. So we must understand how deep growth and development goes, family. We must understand how important that is. To see change in our community, we got to represent that. See, the brother was the walking depiction of his ideology. You see? I'm gonna recontextualize what being a gangster is. That's what he said. Growth and development, that's gangster. Fighting white supremacy, that's gangster. See, that's what he did. That's what the brother did. And that's why they had to make sure his ass was locked away. Right now, he's serving his term in a super max jail in Colorado. See, they put you where nobody will never hear from you again. You see? So brothers like that will never resurface to our youth because they don't want our youth to look up to them. You see? They want us to look up to the rappers who don't pay no homage to who got them where they at. Mentally, not physically, mentally. These brothers was under tutelages, man. They not doing what they doing because they just doing it. They was taught. It was protocol set. You see? This is why you had a BMF. And then they created a Young Jeezy. And then Young Jeezy created CTE. Corporate Thugs Entertainment. Corporate thugging. Listen to that. Listen to that. Corporate thugging. You see? But he never tell you that he learned that from Big Meech and them, who were GDs, who represented the ideology of growth and development. That's what BMF stood for. That's why whenever you heard Big Meech talk, he used to tell you, all my friends could drive my cars. We never falling out over no money because we all got money. And we ain't falling out over no women because I got all types of brothers around me. So sisters, if you want them light skinned, with braids, with dreads, fat, skinny, whatever. We ain't falling out over no women. We ain't falling out over no materialistic shit. Because the ideology is growth and development. You see? That's why those brothers ain't fall out over that. Those brothers are political prisoners. Because what they were doing. These brothers had the mayor of Miami in their pocket. Go look it up. It's all over YouTube. He got the mayor of Miami doing a handshake with him and all that. That's power. That scared the hip hop police. Hip hop police ain't nothing but the feds. Scared the shit out of them. And at the same time, they was making millions of dollars off Young Jeezy. That scared them. Oh no, they got to go. That's what they said, man. You see? And Big Meech had a very big impact on the hip hop industry. This is why you hear people across all the states who rap, they mention that brother. Some way, somehow, you're going to hear BMF. You're going to hear somebody saluting those brothers because what they represented. Because what they represented. See, that's true Black power, growth and development. Those are action words, man. When I hear that, that make me want to get up and do something. You see? And see, what we got to understand too is you become a threat to the system, not by what you do. It's about what you say. It's about what you say. See, that's why Big Meech is in jail for conspiracy. Because of the things he was saying. You see? When you speak truth to power, things start to manifest. See, the brother Larry Hoover spoke it. Growth and development. Growth and development. Things started to manifest. Oh, now you must go. That's how it works, family. So when we on YouTube speaking truth to power, you on the radar. So if you not gonna stand on the shit you saying, stop saying it. Delete your YouTube account and go and live the regular life of a slave. This is not for you. Because at some point or another, we're gonna have more and more political prisoners. You see? Or now, from what we could see, they're not even throwing us in jail no more. They just murdering us in the street. Like they did the brother Darren Sills, another social activist. They just killed him. They not even sending us to prison no more. They just murdering us. And they could just murder us because they know that it won't be no backlash behind it. Because they know we don't stand on shit. We standing on our money. We ain't standing on principles and morals and laws and protocol. See, that brother had protocols in his organization. There was order. And when somebody broke order, you was disciplined. That's why they were called disciples. You got to have discipline. You got to be able to follow a code. These brothers had a code of conduct. You see? So our Black men and women need to understand who these people are, our children. These brothers don't need to be swept under the rug. Brothers like this. Why? Why my son shouldn't learn about Larry Hoover? He was a gangster. But what is being a gangster? Tell me what's a gangster. Because an intelligent person could redefine anything. Because the things that's defined in the dictionary, somebody wrote them shits anyway. So we can always redefine what a gangster is. And that's what that brother did. And that's what we got to do to our youth. We got to redefine things, family. We have to recontextualize it because it's not the same no more. You see? And that's what the brothers who continue pushing this ideology did. And that's why you got brothers sitting in jail as political prisoners. Big Meech and his brother, political prisoners. See, we only know what they tell us. But how do we know if all that stuff is true? We don't know if all that stuff is true. Because as you can see, they trumped up a bunch of drug charges on his brother just to give him 6 life terms. He's not looked up as a leader. He's not looked up to as a freedom fighter. This is why they do this to our people. Because they don't want our young black men to know about a Larry Hoover. You see? If we learned about a Larry Hoover, oh my God. You know what we have, family? We have soldiers. That's what we have. We'll have soldiers, not little idiots running around, not savages running around like they like to call themselves now. We savages. You see, those brothers wasn't those brothers were disciples. They had order. That's what these young black men need, order. But what are they gonna organize around? What are they gonna straighten up their lives around? See, money just make you even more reckless. Money makes you even more carefree because you know you could pay for anything. You see, that's why we can't unify around money. That's why we have to unify around a real ideology that represents our people and that's going to make us get up and act and respond, not react, because that's what savages do. They react. We don't need reaction. We need action. We need proactivity. We need to be building young men and women with the mindset that's already on go, that's already creative. You see, that's what we need. And that's why we need to teach our youth about brothers like this. Embodied that. You see, he embodied that. You know, if anybody want to come in, family, and join the conversation, you know you welcome at all times. I just threw the link up. You know, y'all could come, voice your opinions, you know, or teach me something about Larry Hoover that I didn't know, you know? Because a lot of times when you're doing research on the internet about a lot of our freedom fighters, it's a lot of biased, you know, bullshit. Like they just try to make the brother look like a criminal. See? D-Red, what it do? Peace to everybody in the chat. The chat. Put the link out there for anybody who want to come through, speak their piece. But yeah, family, Larry Hoover is our third freedom fighter. Great brother. Still alive to this day. They gave the brother so much time, they just want him to die in prison. I could tell. They just waiting for him to die. You know, they ain't give him the death penalty or none of that. They just gave him so much time that they just hope he die. 6 life sentences. 6 for some bullshit for conspiracy. See, conspiracy charges is for the charges of the masterminds, the ones behind all of this, the mind behind all of this, the man behind the ideology. That's why he got conspiracy. What did Big Meech get? Conspiracy. These are political prisoners, family. Political prisoners, man. Because when you start to unify and show the government we a nation, GDN, growth and development nation, now you're a terrorist. See, they deem that as an act of terrorism because unification is a war strategy. Because that's how the white supremacists knew shit, through unifying. This is why the United States has all these allies. Those are all their friends who's going to aid them in keeping the system of white supremacy growing globally. You see? So we must understand that, family, and understand who the people were who were fighting for our freedom, man. And we got to stop letting these brothers like him especially, get swept under the rug, man. This brother got 6 life terms. This is why they give him this time. You see? Look at what Big Meech is doing from the jail. Brothers still shouting him out in their music. He got a clothing line out right now. Jay Flannery. All his. Same thing Larry was doing, man. Still teaching growth and development. So we better understand that those brothers are political prisoners too. And they're political prisoners because they followed the ideology of this brother right here, Larry Hoover. Growth and development. The growth and development nation. Isn't that what our nation needs, family? We all need growth and development. You see? Because see, growth and development builds culture. And we lost our culture. You see? And that's why we're not developing nothing in our community. That's why you see our youth growing into shit stains. Because the ideology was lost. It was lost, family. Like I said, I put the link out there. Anybody want to click on and speak their piece, y'all can. But we need an ideology to follow, family. This brother created one. And see, once you start doing that, just understand what you're going to be considered, family. Just understand that your life, your family's life, it's going to be in jeopardy. See? You're going to get death threats. You're going to be getting arrested for nothing, pulled over, all types of stuff. Because you're a freedom fighter. You want to see your people free from the system. You want to see your people independent. And why can't we be independent in this market called America, or the United States of America, excuse me, the corporation? Why are we not independent in this free market? That's why they call America the free world, the United States the free world, because it's a free market. Everybody could come in and get paid. and make money and be successful. But it starts with unification. And we're not going to ever unify until we unify under a real and substantial ideology. Because once we unify around money and we get the bag and everybody get what they want, all niggas gonna do is run back into their pockets. I'm good now. I'm going over here. I'm good now. I'm going over there. Isolating themselves from their people. And we were taught that. That's the divide and conquer tactic. Ideology, back to ideology again, which is white supremacist ideology. Divide and conquer, separatism. This brother had 15,000 members in at least 5 different states, and I'm thinking it's more than that. You see what I'm saying? That's power. You see? That's how he was able to go and have lobbyists pushing for him, because he went and told the young brothers that were reformed to go out and vote. You see? But you gonna vote for who I say we gonna vote for. So basically, those brothers had their own voting block. He created his own voting block. So through unification behind a serious ideology, look what this brother has created. But we all crying about who voted for Trump and who voted for Hillary, and why we don't have anybody lobbying for us, because we're not unified. This brother had it because he had 15,000 people in 5 different states. So he can control a whole voting block in different states. You see? So we gonna put who we want in office. The mayor of our city is gonna be because we picked them. So then we could talk about jobs. Then we could talk about social reform. But we can't talk about none of that shit because we're not even unified behind an ideology that's going to progress the people. We like to organize around ideologies that's going to keep us stagnated, or it's going to take us back to slavery. See, we got to use slavery and all of those things as ways to progress, not ways to keep us stagnated. You see? And we got to stop organizing around devices and tools. We have to use those tools. See, money is a tool. This is why we can't organize around money. Money is a tool. Money is a tool for us to become liberated through finances, through economics. These are tools. These are not ideologies. Growth and development is an ideology, family. What an ideology. You see? Shout out to everybody in the chat once again, coming through. You know, shout out to the CRTs. Shout out to my man Zeus, D-Red, the OG. My man Megalodon, he always showing me love. Shout out to you too, Chuck LeBlanc. Shout out to you too, bro. But yeah, man, we gotta stop playing. See, this brother was serious. And see, that's another reason why he had to be taken down like that too, because he was very militant. Very militant. Just from his pictures alone. That brother ain't play no games. That brother ain't play no games. And this is what we gotta stop doing. We gotta stop playing games and stop talking about the same shit that was talked about years and years and years and years ago, and we keep talking about it over and over and over and over. You see? Cut it out, man. Far around money. Because you're gonna always have people who gonna get more than the other. And then somebody gonna feel left out. Because they gotta still live in Bankhead and your ass live in Buckhead. So if I'm living in Bankhead and you living in Buckhead, and I barely get to see you because you don't come around no more, but you telling me I'm your brother. But I'll never get to see my brother. My brother don't come and touch the community. And see, organizing around that, that's what that's going to lead to. It's going to further perpetuate that bougie shit between us, the bougie nigga syndrome. Now you live up in the hills. Now you don't come see the animals. You see that? You become a bougie nigga, i.e., the big four-headed Nigerian scam artist. You see? Organizing around money, look what happened. So as we could see, that doesn't work, family. We need a substantial ideology to stand behind and represent. Growth and development is a great ideology to represent. It's not a gang. It's not. It's not a gang. It's an ideology that Black people can follow to build things. Because I guarantee you right now, a lot of your brothers that you see that's doing certain things in certain facets, they know about this brother. And the king is well known in hip hop. King Larry is well known. A lot of your rap groups out in Atlanta, out in Florida, out in Chicago, that's hot. Come up under this brother, GDN, Growth and Development Nation. You see? And see, these brothers all linked up. He linked up with other brothers. He started out with the Supreme Gangsters. Then he met a brother named David Barksdale. And they created what? The BDGN. That's the Black disciples and the gangster disciples. But now those brothers are killing each other in masses in Chicago. You know why? Because a lot of those brothers didn't grow up with those protocols because the brother been in jail. You see? And see, a lot of times when the elders are not around to counsel the youth, that's where the lines get blurred. So now you got these young boys out here that's saying, yeah, I represent, growth and development. I love the king. I respect the king. But then look what they tell you. These dudes coming to my block shooting at me every day. So I'm not supposed to shoot back, even though they BDs. They Black disciples. They supposed to represent it with us. But they trying to kill us. So do I let them kill me because I want to be positive? This is what these brothers are struggling with. You see? Well-known BD in the hip hop industry right now? Chief Keef. Chief Keef. And right now, Chief Keef is in jail because he ain't got no order. See? See, once the elders are gone to counsel the youth say, fuck the ideology. I'm living my life. You see, this is why revolution, I say revolution is not a future thing. It's not a past thing. It's eternally moving. It's the eternal now. So we need brothers that's going to step up and say, listen, man, that shit got to stop. You see? In the case that the brother is fighting right now, it's because he beat up one of his producers, and one of his producers come from a predominantly GD neighborhood. And he hang out with GDs. But he has a talent. He's not a GD or BD. He neutral. But he grew up with GDs. You see? So that could be some of the reasons why they beat him the way they did and did what they did to the brother. But that's supposed to be your brother. Because David Barksdale and Larry Hoover joined forces. They unified. Because if we don't unify, we can't fight shit. We can't fight the real oppressors. You see? They was telling them brothers, we ain't fighting over blocks we don't control no more. We need to start controlling our neighborhoods. We need to start controlling our blocks. This is why David Barksdale and Larry Hoover came together. So they can create something and have something for their people. And so the youth growing up could see something. But see, once you become a political prisoner, they destroy everything you have created. And they even put dirt on your name, put dirt on your ideology, put dirt on the people who was organized with you. So the youth that's coming up today could be like, man, fuck that nigga. You know what I'm saying? But you look up to Chief Keef though, young boy. So if you look up to Chief Keef and he a black disciple, understand what being a black disciple is. And where that came from and who started that. See, this is why I say we got to recontextualize it, family. It's Black History Month 2017. As y'all can see, I ain't talking about Ida B. Wells. And there's nothing wrong with that, with those, with her. There's nothing wrong with Frederick Douglass. There's nothing wrong with talking about those people. But we need to recontextualize it to the youth today because they don't want to hear about those people. They could care less. You give a fuck about Martin Luther King? You see? But if we teach them from an ideology standpoint, then we can wheel them in and get them listening. These people. This is why I say we got to meet the youth where they at, family. We got to meet them. We have to. We have to meet our youth where they at. And all these young boys and young girls out here love drill music. They love Chicago artists. They love Detroit artists. They love New York artists, Atlanta artists. Understand where those ideologies of your favorite artists come from. See? And see, as you could see, as he got further in his career, his ideology changed. He went and did his political thing. You see? But what did he just say in an interview? He said when he wanted to speak on politics and social reform and things like that, his album sales dropped. And see, by him not being independent, doing for self, being that he's not independent and he's still connected to these white supremacist record labels, he had to recoup the money and go back to preaching death. Hence, you got Trap or Die 3. You see? This is why brothers like Larry Hoover cannot be swept under the rug. Because when you sweep brothers like this under the rug, their ideology and their philosophies go with them. And then you have black men and women that feel like they have no choice but to continue to sell their people out. Because they're not going to get any support behind activism. You see? That brother idolized money. That he idolized freedom. Because as you can see, he is a slave. And he admitted it by him saying he had to go back and start talking about the trap. So he could sell records. So you're a slave. That's what you are. That's what you just admitted to being. A slave. So you continue to sell your people poison. Because you want to continue to make money. So you could continue to live in Buckhead and be that bougie nigga that want to deal with the hood and deal with the impoverished people when you choose to. See? He's not a coon. But what he is he's a slave. Because he's being forced to continue to push the negative narrative. He's being forced to continue to push their narrative on his people when he knows that that narrative is only going to continue us being slaughtered. We're going to continue to be getting slaughtered in the streets. We're going to continue to live in the projects. We're going to continue to live off food stamps. We're going to continue that because you keep telling us we need to trap or die so you can eat. You see? And this is why we need an ideology like growth and development to stand upon, family. Because once you stand around that money, they can control you. Because you're not independent anyway. See, shout out to the brother Nick Cannon. That brother just told NBC to kiss his ass. He's not going to compromise himself as being a black man for some money. See that? Because the ideology that he represents is more important than the money. You see? So shout out to y'all, family. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to y'all tuning in. I thank y'all again, family. You know, go watch my previous videos. The one I just did before this was on Matulu Shakur. And the one before that was on Francis Cress Wilson. Y'all stay tuned for more on the Black History series, family. Most likely I'll be back later, family. Y'all set y'all reminders. Y'all stay tuned in, man. Thank y'all again, man. Thank y'all for y'all time and y'all support. It's all love, family. This is DS1 Ross, and I'm signing out. And y'all have just tuned in to Sheep Stay Sleep live stream. Sheep stay sleep. Wise ones awoke. It's about growth and development, family. Peace.